Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to BWTM Sports Gaming. We are now reviewing the fight between Jack Catterall, or Josh Taylor, the undisputed champion, in his hometown of Glasgow, making his homecoming defense against ish video. Won't be a long video, this one will be a shorter one because way past my bedtime, as they say. Let me just okay, so first of all, people in the room, how did you score the fight? How did you see the fight going? For me, let's get this down at the bottom. Let's push this there. Oh, there we go. Right, for me, listen, for me, when I watch boxing now, it's about what can I learn from this fight in terms of predictions, in terms of breaking a fight down, how accurate was my breakdown, things like that. Those are the sort of things that when I watch boxing now, I try and be a student of the game. And if anyone says that tonight's fight was an upset, then they should really know better. Because here you have a guy, Jack Catterall, who's unbeaten, but the form guide tells you he was sparring Canelo and Mayweather. So you knew right there the mentality of Jack Catterall would have been from the start. Who's Josh Taylor? Yeah, he's undisputed champion, but who's he? I've got hit harder by Canelo. I thought I've sparred with a technically better boxer than Taylor in Floyd Mayweather. So who the hell's Josh Taylor? So right there in your head, mentally, you're a different animal. So you're undefeated. You have skills. And you're fighting a man in Josh Taylor who doesn't see a way how you can beat him. He doesn't. And he's fired up and he's ready to go. And he's in his hometown. And early on, you are unlocking the door. And by the way, shout out to Jamie Moore. Shout out to Jamie Moore. He put on an absolutely brilliant game plan for how Catterall should go about beating and becoming an undisputed champion. The only thing I would have criticized Jamie Moore and Jack Catterall for is that they allowed Taylor to keep getting onto the front foot and pushing him back against the ropes. If you noticed how Catterall actually scored the knockdown, it was the left hand, which I spoke about, the big left hand, and then a combination to the body. And that dropped Taylor. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you can do that. Why don't you continue doing that? The body work was good as well. But Taylor showed what it takes to be a champion, mental toughness, and closing the range down against the southpaw, closing the range down himself and trying to, although he's a southpaw himself, close the range down, don't give Catterall the space to work and get in close and land shots on the inside and frustrate Catterall. That's what it seemed to me, and try and break him down and bully him. But Catterall was mentally too strong for that. I think Catterall, when he sits at home and watches the fight, he's going to be kicking himself. He could have been undisputed champion. I mean, there was a point in it in the end, but all he needed, Catterall, was to throw more punches and get onto the front foot and be more aggressive to Taylor. And it's easier said than done, but this is what happens when undefeated fighters. It's very dismissive in the boxing world, particularly a lot of people on YouTube, very dismissive when it comes to undefeated fighters. Do your homework, check guys out. So I said, you never know how good an unbeaten fighter is until they're beaten. And going into the fight, I said, right, well, Catterall's going to come in better than he's ever boxed before. He has to. But I saw even that the gloves are off, when the two were talking and Taylor was talking all the stuff he was talking, all the mess Taylor was talking, Catterall kept eye contact in. He kept looking at him. All right, mate. Okay, fine. All right, mate. And then he went up to him and at the weigh-in, I was able to put his hand on his throat. Do you understand? That's a man that showed little or no respect for Josh Taylor as a fighter. Ben Davidson, again, has to ask himself some questions. You know, all the fight, throughout the fight, Taylor was unable to get himself out of the way of the left hand. And you talk about him fighting Crawford. Are you crazy? Are you crazy about Josh Taylor moving up to welterweight and fighting Crawford? And he's getting hit with the same shot all night long. You know, Taylor's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. But it showed his vulnerabilities to southpaws or to that type of style. And you imagine Terence Crawford's going to hit him orthodox and southpaw and with power. And he also has been a former undisputed champion. So all them tactics that Taylor would use and mind games trying to get into Crawford said that stuff's not going to happen. Not going to happen. So Ben Davidson and Taylor better go back and start looking at tightening up Taylor's defense and what he's going to do moving forward. Because as far as I'm concerned, and the way I'm looking at things there, Taylor's reign could have been over tonight. Could have easily been over tonight. How good is Jack Catterall? Well, based on that, he was a point away from being undisputed champion. So he's a pretty good fighter. And like I said, sparring with Mayweather and sparring with Canelo, that tells you the guy had some quality about him. You know, when Errol Spence was sparring and he caused Mayweather problems and he caused Broner problems, people always talked about those sparring rumors about Errol Spence. Look at Errol Spence today, or what Errol Spence has done so far in his career. I'm not comparing Spence to Catterall, but I'm saying to you, there are situations where undefeated fighters, you never know how good an undefeated fighter is. Otto Wallin, again, undefeated fighter. You never know how good an unbeaten fighter is until they're beaten. Warrington, Catterall worked his ass off. Well, I said to you that you never underestimate an unbeaten fighter. Never. Oh, light went there. The British Boxing Control have questions to answer as I understand they appoint the judges. Yep. What's that? Joke decision, quite possibly. Dude was robbed, quite possibly. British Boxing Border Control hates MTK. Okay. So those are my thoughts there on this. I don't have much more to say about the fight. It is what it is. Catterall can come again. I think that Taylor needs to vacate and move up because I'm not sure he can stay at light welterweight any longer. He needs to move up to welterweight and proceed up there. The British Boxing Border Control do have questions to answer. That referee is a lot to answer as well. So, yeah. All right. I'm going to leave it right there. Thank you all for watching. As always, this has been BWTM Sports. And we are out. Never, never, never underestimate an unbeaten fighter. Good night.